Over the years of teaching quarterbacks on my team and in private training, I've learned that the transition from throwing stationary routes and then throwing routes to receivers who are running, you need to teach them the concept of LTV, which is location, trajectory, and velocity. So there's really only 3 locations that you're going to throw a ball to a receiver. You're going to throw it, aim at his chest, or you're going to throw it and aim it at his left shoulder, or if I turn this way would be my upfield shoulder, or if I turn the other way and I'm running outside, the outside shoulder. So you're going to throw it at either the chest, the outside shoulder, or the upfield shoulder. That's the only 3 locations you're going to throw it at. You're also going to throw it with particular trajectories. Most of the time, your trajectory is going to be head height. So if I'm aiming at an upfield shoulder, it's going to be head height upfield shoulder. The reason being is anybody chasing or anybody closing on that route when I'm running up the field, they can get it from the neck down. But they're not going to be able to get it if the quarterback throws it head height to that upfield shoulder. If I'm running an out route, I'll turn this way. If I'm running an out route, the same thing applies. I want to throw it head height, upfield shoulder. So if a defender is coming from behind me, he can put his hand in the throwing lane and get it from the neck down. But he can't get it when it's head height on my outside shoulder. Okay? So for example, if I'm running up the field and this defender's behind me, if he throws it right here, the right trajectory and velocity right here, then this defender can't get it. If I'm running an out route and the defender's chasing me this way, he's going to throw it head height on my outside shoulder and he can't get that. Okay? If I'm running a slant and he's right behind me, if he throws it on my chest, he can't get that. So teaching the quarterback that how is the route being run, up the field, out, or across the field, that gives him pre-snap an idea of what he's going to look through, the throwing lane or really the body position on the person he's going to throw to. It gives him a lane to look at to decide where to throw the football, okay? So if I'm running across the field, the quarterback would want to throw it at his chest. That also, if I'm running across the field and this defender is right here, if he throws it at my chest, this gives me time to tuck it and take a hit. So across the field, the seeing across means throw it at the receiver's chest. If I'm running up the field, I'm throwing it at the upfield shoulder. If I'm running an out route, I'm throwing it at the outside shoulder. So that's the location that the quarterback wants to look at pre-snap whatever his first read is. So by teaching the quarterback the location of every route generically that he should look at to throw the ball. Once again, an upfield route, look at it through his upfield shoulder, look head height through his upfield shoulder. An out route, look head height through his outside shoulder. And a crossing route, look at his chest. It allows him to see also the defender. So you don't have to have him specifically look at one particular defender. He can drop back and watch that particular body part location, and if that thing's clear, he can hit his back foot and that ball can come out. But if as he's dropping back, it becomes cloudy because a defender's getting in that location throwing lane, he can either throw the guy open by throwing it from his upfield shoulder to a back shoulder throw, or from an outside shoulder throw to an inside shoulder throw, or from a chest throw to a back shoulder or front shoulder throw. It allows him to see the defender that's defending that route. I really like that concept and have taught that to numerous quarterbacks and have had success them playing at a high level because it'll make them understand about throwing a guy open. There's going to be times where teams play man-to-man and you don't have any choice but to throw it to somebody who's pretty well covered. In other words, if I'm running the route and this defender is standing right here and all I've got is this and I have to get the ball out, I've got to be able to throw it to half a man against man-to-man. So giving him a location and helping him understand the trajectory and the velocity that he needs to throw the ball, it allows him to understand the concept that nobody's really ever covered, because there's times in the pocket where you can't take a sack, you have to get the ball out, and if they're playing man-to-man, that happens very frequently. So you can then have a generic pre-snap location that you're going to look on the receiver's body and change it post-snap, but then if you're under pressure, you can always get the ball out and throw it where your receiver has a chance and the defender has less of a chance to make a play on the ball.
Idea of the effects of coaching location, trajectory, and velocity, or LTV, with your quarterbacks. So here's some statistics for 8 years and 92 games. These is 5 different quarterbacks on 4 different teams that I personally coached as either the head coach or running the offense for a friend of mine. So what this says is this was an average game for those 5 different quarterbacks. We completed 20 passes in 33 attempts, 1 interception, 60% of our passes were complete, 262 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 sack, and we averaged 33 points a game. So that was an average game, simply teaching a quarterback that every pass route has an LTV. That is a location where the defender can't get the ball, and then once you see the location, you determine the right trajectory and velocity that is needed for that pass based on where the defender is playing that pass route. In an average season for those 5 different quarterbacks, they averaged 238 completions, 393 attempts, 12 interceptions for the season, 61% completions, 3,129 yards, 29 touchdowns, 14 sacks, and 34 points per game. So you'll see that's been very productive. We've eliminated these interceptions down to 1 a game. 60% of our passes are completed, and we're throwing a pretty significant, almost 2 to 1, over 2 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio just by coaching the location, trajectory, and velocity. Now you might be thinking, well, he passed the ball the whole time because 393 attempts is way more than I have in a season. And that's fine. You can throw the ball less, but just so you don't think I passed the whole time, during that time period when I called plays, and I called all the plays for these guys, I was 60% pass, 40% run over that 8-year period, which was 92 games. So these things you're looking at totals is 92 games is what I compiled the statistics over. The other thing I want you to know is that this is the total yardage dispersion for rushing and passing during those 92 games. I called 2,076 rushes. We had 12,165 yards, which was 5.9 yards, or pretty much 6 yards a carry. And we threw 3,183 passes for 24,056 yards and averaged 7.5 yards a pass. During those 92 games, we averaged 34 points a game. And once again, we're talking about 4 different teams, not the same teams. So teaching this system to the quarterback allowed us to be consistent and with 5 different quarterbacks and 4 different teams. So doing it on the same team is one thing, but being able to do it in different teams, different quarterbacks, that's why I'm giving you this proof that if you focus on teaching him the LTV, you can make any quarterback better with regard to that. And the other thing I want to point out is that because I was 60-40, I was coaching teams that weren't necessarily always the best team or even the best team in our conference. So passing, it was something that we needed to do because running the ball against some of the better teams was going to be kind of futile. We're going to have to be able to have a short passing game. So these passes that you're looking at really emphasize throwing short controlled passes. You might want to correlate that to the West Coast passing system, which is slant hitch out as much as we can to throw it and get it in a guy's hands and let him run with the ball. And that's indicative of why this is 7.5 yards per pass attempt over those 8 years, and it's 6-point rush. So you figure if we hand it off and get 6 yards and we throw a pass and get another 7.5 or 8 yards, that's a first down in every 2 plays. So we weren't trying to throw the ball deep. We weren't trying to throw the ball for a lot of yardage. We were trying to use our short passing game as a way to move the ball when we couldn't run it against teams that were simply better at defending the run and bigger and stronger than we were. And we were still average 34 points a game, mixing that short passing game and mixing a good running game in with it. Okay? But the point is we could make the quarterbacks very efficient throwing the ball by giving them a location for each pass route and then allowing them to pick the right trajectory and velocity to complete their passes. So this is the cooperation that to encourage you to think about teaching your quarterback the location, trajectory, and velocity of throwing a football.
Now that we have an understanding of what LTV is, location, trajectory, and velocity, we need to have a drill so that the quarterback can look at that particular body part and also see a defender. So we do what I call LTV drill. And how that setup is we'll take a quarterback, put him in the top of his drop stance as if he's already dropped back. We'll put a receiver 6 yards over to the side. And then we'll put a defender 4 yards off of him like he's playing man off. We'll then run 3 routes. We'll run a slant so that he has to look at the chest because that's a route that goes across the field. We'll run a speed out, which he has to look at the outside shoulder of the receiver. And then we'll run a seam, which is straight up the field, which will require the quarterback to look at the upfield shoulder. When we do that, we will allow the defender to play that route any way he'd like, whether he wants to cut off the route, like if I'm running an out route, if he wants to play underneath me and cut the route off, or if he wants to play behind the out route, or if he wants to play in front of that route. We'll let him do any of those 3 positions on those 3 routes, and we'll allow the quarterback to look at the specific body part and then adjust his location, trajectory, and velocity based on how the defender is playing that route. When we do this, we only do this at half to 3/4 speed because we're just trying to train the quarterback's eyes to be able to see the body part, but also see the defender and then make the post-snapped LTV decision that he needs to make to throw a good ball without getting an interception. So let's look at the slant drill in the LTV where the defender, as he goes across the field on a slant, the defender can either play right behind him, in which case he's going to continue to look at the chest and throw the chest throw, or he might try to cut the route off and get in front of him, in which case he'd throw a back shoulder throw, or he might be in trail technique or playing behind him where he needs to make a front shoulder throw. So let's take a look at a quarterback doing the slant route on the LTV drill. So let's take a look now at the speed out route in LTV drill. So the quarterback's going to look through head height, outside shoulder on this outside route, and he's going to find the defender. If the defender is playing trail technique, depending on how close he is to the receiver, he might throw one ball straight to his head height, outside shoulder, or if he's really tight, he might have to change the trajectory and put a little bit more arc on it, like a 2-ball, to throw it over his shoulder to get to his spot. If the defender is right behind him, immediately behind him, he could still throw that 1-ball, head height on the outside shoulder, and if for some reason the defender has chosen to play over top of that and cut him off, then he might have to throw a back shoulder. So let's take a look now at the quarterback executing the speed out drill for LTV. The third route that we do in the LTV drill is the seam route. And this is where the receiver is going to run straight up the field. And this setup is a little different than the slant and the speed out, in that we'll have a defender that'll start right behind him and basically chase the receiver. And what he'll do when he chases him is either can chase him in deny position, meaning he'll be inside of him, and then the quarterback, obviously he's looking at head height upfield shoulder when you run up the field. He might have to change the trajectory to a 2-ball to get it over that receiver that's denying him. If the defender is far enough away, even though he's in trail technique, he may be able to just throw that on a line, a 1-ball, right on a line to that upfield shoulder. The other position that he could be is, for some reason, if he plays over top of that route, he might have to throw a back shoulder in that upfield route on the seam route. So let's take a look at those scenarios of a quarterback executing the upfield shoulder route throw on a seam route. Using the location, trajectory, and velocity, or LTV, to teach a quarterback how to throw routes where he has less chance of getting an interception has really been beneficial for the young men that I coached on my teams, as well as the young men that I trained personally. And I've done this drill with 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, middle school players, high school players, and college players. And they really get a good sense, and they really develop the confidence that they know where that route should start in terms of what he should be looking at to throw the ball so he can reduce his interceptions, and then how he can make an adjustment in the trajectory, velocity, and the location post-snap as he sees what develops in somebody covering that route. So I recommend you give this a try with your quarterback, and I think you'll see his confidence go up and his ability to get the ball to receivers consistently and even being more accurate.